Hannah and I to come out to Albuquerque to join y'all for the Electrify New Mexico event that was going on. Where we got to meet a few of you, I believe. And since then, we've just kind of been following up by piecemeal, but this is such a great opportunity to get to talk all together. So my name is Hannah Dieck. I work for a company called iChooser, and our company, along with the nonprofit Solar United Neighbors, who my coworker Hannah Mitchell works for, put on the Switch Together programs. And the Switch Together programs are essentially a turnkey group solar buying opportunity for communities. And I'm going to go through kind of the whole program in depth so you guys can get sort of an overview of what that might look like in your city or county. And I'll let Hannah Mitchell introduce herself, and then she'll talk a little bit about Solar United Neighbors and their work.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. I'm Hannah Mitchell, she, her pronouns. I work for Solar United Neighbors. So we are a vendor-neutral 501c3 nonprofit. We do work nationally as well as have state-based programs. So we have state staff on the ground organizing in 12 states, DC and Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, New Mexico is not one of those states yet. We would love for it to be. So we're kind of starting here and seeing what grows from there. But we have done a little bit of work in New Mexico on the advocacy side, as well as we had a small rural co-op that we did as well. I'm going to chat a little bit about our theory of change. So our mission is threefold. First, it is to get folks to go solar. So that looks a variety of different ways. We have a national help desk where people can reach out and ask their questions about the process of going solar. We also run bulk buys, such as this one. We work in the community solar space. It just kind of depends on what region, but we kind of have our hands in everything to do with solar, I would say. The second part of our mission is join together. So we want to create community around sustainability, solar energy, and have folks that are excited and get folks excited about solar. So that we host happy hours. Last week, I'm based in Denver. And last week, I attended one of our trivia nights, which was super fun. I learned a lot. And part 3 of our mission is fight for your energy rights. So that is often our 501c4, our sister organization. And we help folks at the local, state, and national level on a variety of campaigns, kind of where we're called. Last year, we did a big IRA defense campaign. And, each state, it can be as small as helping a homeowner or an HOA or something like that with their solar policies. And I think I have one more slide, Hannah.
I think that's all.
Okay.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Sorry. I did. And I just briefly wanted to share about our national impact at Sun. These are just some great statistics that show some families we've helped go solar and some fun photos in the background. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And as Hannah said, the Solar United Neighbors has been running sort of residential solar co-ops for, I think, over 10 years, Hannah. And we have partnered with Solar United Neighbors for about 5 years now. And essentially the partnership goal has been to grow those programs to larger group buys with the help of our kind of tech platform. So I work for a company called iChooser. They started out in the Netherlands about 20 years ago. We're now in 5 countries, including the United States. So we have a small US team, and we partnered with Solar United Neighbors 5 years ago to essentially help them grow their co-op programs. So as Hannah said, we're running our co-op or our group buy programs in 9 states. And we're exploring opportunities to potentially start a group buy program in New Mexico. This is just some statistics about what our company has been able to do over the course of its inception, but essentially we lend customer service, installer help, sort of like the tech leg of things, so that we can scale the programs to be more sizable. And then this is just some results from our US-based program. So we've been running sort of our larger group buy programs since June of 2023. We have registered over 55,000 households for the Switch Together program. We've just hit 4,000 installations complete at the end of 2025, and hoping to continue growing that. But this is just some kind of impact-based information. And then I'm just going to kind of talk through what the program would look like with Switch Together. So the overall idea behind Switch Together is to make going solar much simpler for a resident in your town, county, city. So we know that finding a solar installer can be very confusing, figuring out there's lots of scam programs out there. So really reducing all of those barriers to entry for someone who's looking to put a solar system on their home. So essentially what the program looks like from a resident side is that they will see a social media post. They might receive a direct mailer in the mail from us that's co-branded with the city or county. And in that piece of marketing material, they'll see a link to a landing page for their community. They can visit that landing page, which I'll show you in a second. And on that landing page, they'll type in their zip code and then be taken through a registration form. That registration form will collect data about their home, how much their utility bill is typically, how big their roof is, if they have any objects in their yard that might shade the home. And then that gives us information to give them a personal recommendation. And in that personal recommendation, a person would be paired with a local installer. It'll break down what an estimated cost of the system would be. It'll also bake in any local rebates or incentives that exist. From the installer side of the program, essentially how it works is that when we start a program in a new region, say for instance Denver, our installer management team will go to that city and they will essentially seek out companies in a 2-hour driving radius of the city or county to find qualified local installers to participate, and they'll invite them to become part of the program. And then essentially those companies will be vetted for a series of qualification standards. And my follow-up email will include kind of a breakdown of exactly what those qualification standards are. And then once we have sort of a bucket of usually 3 to 5 qualified installers, depending on how big an area is and how much capacity we need, we'll invite them to participate in we call it a reverse auction. So essentially it's just a blinded auction from our end so that there's no sort of bias for any company. And at that point, it becomes just who will give the group buy program the best price. So what that ends up doing is typically giving the group buy price about a 15 to 25% discount on market rate solar. So if someone went out and just found a solar installer themselves, it's typically about 20% more expensive than through one of our programs, which is great considering that the federal tax credit has unfortunately gone away. So hopefully that's a little bit of an incentive for folks to still see going solar as a good option. Once the auction finishes, we reach out to usually 1 to 2 installers, depending on how much capacity we need, and let them know they've been sort of awarded that work. And then that will feed into the personal recommendation. So say we have, in DC, we have a company called Solar Solution. So someone who had registered in DC would then get a personal recommendation email, and it'll say, you've been paired with Solar Solutions. Here's what your system will likely cost. And if they choose to move forward and accept that offer, they'll be directed directly to that installer, and they'll move forward. And sort of then Hannah and I's team will kind of be ushering around those two entities. So essentially the relationship then becomes between the resident and the installer, but we're sort of always there should any problems arise, should any questions arise. Sun has a help desk. We have a robust customer service team, and the idea is to ultimately support the consumer from start to finish. And then this is just some information about our outreach and promotion strategies. So our biggest piece of promotion, and that's also where the partnership between us and our government partners comes in, is our direct mailers. So we send out snail mail. And the idea is that by using sort of a government logo on an envelope, it will incentivize people to actually open the mail. I'm sure everyone knows that, our mailboxes are stuffed full of junk mail, and typically you don't open everything unless it looks like, oh, I should open this envelope. So the idea is that with the government logo, someone might think, oh, I should open this, and also help us to build trust, as we know that there's lots of scammy solar programs out there. And so by sort of endorsing the program with the logo, hopefully residents can feel put at ease that this is not something that is going to scam them. In addition to the direct mailer, we send out online marketing materials to all of our community partners. So you'll get an email with a folder of Facebook posts, Instagram posts, LinkedIn, any sort of like ad hoc newsletter language that you'd like to put in, local emails that you send out for your community. We sometimes do more traditional advertising if there's a request from a community, such as like billboards, or we've done NPR radio ads, things like that. And then we also offer community engagement and event support. So as Hannah said, we don't have a team on the ground in New Mexico because we haven't expanded there quite yet, but we offer virtual program support. So essentially we'll run like solar 101s, we call them. So if we get a program up and running in a place, we'll hold like online webinars, and people can join and learn more about the program and learn more about solar in general. And I do also want to flag that from Sun's side, they do a lot of the educational piece and the outreach leg of the program. And sometimes what that turns out is that maybe Switch Together isn't a good fit for them. And so because we're completely sort of program and vendor neutral, Sun's Help Desk can help someone who maybe Switch Together doesn't work for them, but they are interested in electrifying or solarizing, and figure out like what best works for them. And then this is just an example of what the letter looks like. So this is what a resident would receive. This is from our DC campaign a couple of years ago. So essentially it has some information about the program. The top paragraph will kind of say like, the city of Albuquerque is partnering with Switch Together to run a solar group buy program. That bottom chunk of information will be steps that a resident can expect to follow if they move forward, and then a QR code and a website so that they can visit our landing page and go through the registration process. And then this is an example of what the envelope looks like. So it has the little like clear window with the Solar United Neighbors logo, and then the city's logo or the county's logo. And then I'm going to go to the next page for a better screenshot of the website. So this is what a landing page will look like. So this is for Denver. So if someone visited the link on a Denver mailer, they would be taken to this website, and they can click the little register today button. And the website also we have blog posts that are educational materials, and as well as just some other helpful information about going solar. And then this is also kind of essentially the little green screenshot is the same information that's presented on the mailer, just kind of taking the resident through like what they can expect if they move forward in the process. This is just another screenshot of like a more generic landing page. We have all of our community partners down there at the bottom, just a whole host of other communities that we're partnering with right now. And then this is an example of a personal recommendation. So someone who went through the registration form will receive this in their email. So this is someone who is paired with Solar Solution. And you can see that in this little green box that they have been given a cost estimate for their system, as well as how many panels is estimated for their home. And then some other information about what kind of equipment is going to be used. And then I have some information about like roles and responsibilities and how it kind of actually breaks down in practice. But did anyone have any questions about anything I've gone over so far? Okay, can you explain the cost? Okay, so there is no cost to local governments. This is a no-cost program. Essentially, the program is funded by install fees. So how it is designed is that it's very expensive for especially local installers who we prioritize working with to do marketing and find customers in their area that are willing to go solar, especially with kind of the more federal landscape being a little bit more anti-sustainable energy. So essentially our pitch to installers is that we, through the direct mailer and our partnership with local governments, can do that legwork for them and do the marketing essentially for them if they participate in the program. So that's kind of their incentive. And then each time an installation is completed, there's a fee for that funds the program. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. And thank you, Hannah. A few years ago, the city of Santa Fe did a bulk purchasing program in solar, and it went pretty well for we did it for 2 years. But I think the staff really got burnt out because there were a lot of paperwork and keeping track of who's doing what. How would you compare and contrast your approach?
Yeah, let me just go to our next slide. I have just broken down like specific bullet points. So on the local government partner side, we kind of designed the program to be as involved or as not involved as you all would like it to be. So we ultimately want to do all the heavy lifting for y'all. The biggest ask on the community side is, can we use your logo on our materials? That's ultimately like the biggest helper. The other kind of task areas are, and also I want to point out that all of these are optional. It's helpful to, of course, actively promote the program. So if you have an Instagram page, or if you have a newsletter, using our language that we provide in the social media toolkit and posting on those channels just to promote the program. And we can also provide, like, we welcome any review or edits to our communication materials if that's something that your office wants to provide. Certainly not required though. And then just like prepping staff generally that the program is happening is kind of that last bullet. And that's more of just like a general, for everyone's awareness, this program is happening kind of thing. But on our side, we handle all the communication materials. We do all the website stuff. We provide customer service from start to finish. So you shouldn't have to worry about any of that. We'll do all community education and outreach. We have an installer management team that does all the liaison, like all the support and communications with the installers. So you shouldn't have to worry about any of that. And then we also provide a biweekly data report to all of our community partners. So every other Friday, you'd receive like a little dashboard that tells you how many people have registered for the program, how many people have paid their deposit, or moving forward with installs, and then ultimately installs down the line. So essentially the idea is that if you'd like to be more involved, we have some community partners that want to meet with our team, with me and Hannah and our counterparts, with our respective organizations, maybe bi-weekly or once a month, and just kind of get like a pulse, like how's the program going. Some community partners I see maybe quarterly. It's very whatever works for y'all, we're happy to do. So I don't have any actual demographics, but I will say that the direct mailer is, we use a system. We don't just blanket send the direct mailers to everyone in a given, radius. We have essentially targeted mailers to find folks that are most likely to go solar. So people who are living in single family homes and have lived there for 3 years, just to kind of help those marketing materials reach people who are most likely to go solar. And then also we have several states where we have low to moderate income programs in addition to our market cost program. And typically with those programs, or with those states that we have LMI programs, we partner with a green bank or another funding option. We do not have inherent funding for low to moderate income people wanting to go solar, but SUN is a big part of sort of finding avenues to fund those sorts of options, so that we can tack on low to moderate income options.
Yeah, and I can just jump in here to say that we do a lot of work in that space at SUN. So we have a solar access and affordability team as well behind the scenes. And we have a full-time staff member devoted to what we consider our West region. So New Mexico would fall into that bracket. And then we also have worked successfully with some larger metro areas. So Denver and the Twin Cities are two really good examples. We now have a full-time staff person who just covers those two programs because they've been so successful.
And I saw a hand raised. You can go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that's my me. This is my.
Okay.
Anyways, we don't have a Google is a little hard for our city. But these two presented to us yesterday, and I had a few more follow-up questions. One is, if the city is willing to participate more actively in like the promotional materials, is there ability to share revenue for some of the sales commission or sign-up fees that you guys gather from those referrals?
I don't believe that's something that we are typically or have done historically. I'd have to talk to my team to get like a firm answer on that. But that's not something that we've kind of actively pursued in the past.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about like we're trying to like it'd be really great to roll out multiple like options for our customers because not everyone is going to just do solar, right? We also want to promote these other rebate incentives that also, so like kind of like a one-stop shop, so to speak. And so I was thinking that maybe that could be an option if because like, I mean, we have all the infrastructure to do this technically, but it's like the staff capacity and sometimes just like the budget to like pay for mailers, like, it's like these very low barriers, but like we just sometimes can't overcome. So,
Yeah.
And then would you guys be willing to maybe share like a quarterly report or a yearly report or something of a program so you can get kind of a sense of like the metrics? And obviously I know each different community is its own unique ecosystem. And so it's not necessarily apples to apples, but it'd be cool to see sort of like, how it manifests for another community.
Yeah, actually, we have a pretty good report that we've put together for our Colorado program that we've been sharing externally. So I'd be happy to share that with you. And then if you'd like any follow-up or to see about any other programs, I can definitely get that together as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that also reminds me, I know we talked about yesterday that there are opportunities within our like outreach strategy to promote local incentives or other local programs that perhaps there's just not bandwidth to kind of market. So for instance, if there is, community web pages that you want to promote, we can place those on our sort of web pages so that folks are directed to those if they go to our website. Or some communities we have links on the actual mailers themselves to go to a website. So if you have a sustainable initiative page that you'd like to promote with your community, we can definitely like work to cross kind of collaborate on promoting that. Sorry, I cut someone off. I heard someone come off mute.
And there's one more question in the chat. Has your organization partnered with grid alternatives in other states?
I don't believe so, but Hannah, can you speak to that? I know that's
Yeah, we do partner with Grid in other states. Given that I'm on this program, I don't know to what extent, and it will definitely depend on the state. But I do know that we have partnered with them in several ways before. Not on this program to my knowledge, but on a lot of our other work.
Thank you.
I had another quick question. Do you ever work? I mean, we have a lot of we have a 311 call center that's pretty well staffed. Do you work with those staff members? Like, what's that interaction? Yeah, just thinking about some of the assets that we already have that are underutilized.
Yeah, I'm happy to start this one, Hannah. So we do in our toolkit that we send out, one of the things that we provide is like FAQs if someone were to call in and ask the city about the program so that they can review, like just know kind of what's going on with the program. We also offer, so I've done, for example, on our Denver program, I've done trainings for city staff on like how to talk about the program and what kind of, so they better understand it, so they can ask us their questions and feel more confident when they receive those calls. And I'm happy we're happy to discuss, other things that might come to mind too.
Cool. Thank you.
And I think that's our last. Oh, go ahead, please. Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Hey, this seems a lot like sort of a campaign that I was engaged with in North Carolina with Solar Crowdsource. I imagine that you all are pretty familiar with that organization, but I was curious if y'all just cover different regions and do basically the same thing, or if there are some other key points of differentiation to bear in mind.
Yeah, I think that there definitely are some differences. We typically so we're not only doing solar, but we also offer heat pump group buying programs, as well as EV chargers in some locations. And yeah, there definitely is there's, to be clear, a ton of overlap with the actual program model. I think that our kind of our program is designed to be as like locally specific as we possibly can make it. So we don't use any national or even regional installers. And we have programs where essentially we run them in the same areas as Solarize or Solar Crowdsource. So we're all kind of, our mentality is that we're all kind of on the same team. We're all kind of working towards solarizing. So if there's places for collaborations with other organizations like that, we're more than open to that.
Okay, but it sounds like you're essentially, like it's a very similar model, but there just happen to be some nuances, both in terms of offerings and geography. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions folks have?
Either Hannah, what would be the process for a local government to go down this road in partnership with one of you? Is it involved like meeting with you all and creating an MOU, and like what is the kind of the rollout, 6 months to a year, something like that? And how long does the program actually run? I know with the Solarize campaigns, when those were a thing going on, they were typically time limited, creating some sort of pressure for households to be incentivized to sign up for the reduced costs of the program.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Hannah, you go.
No, I can start us off with kind of how to get the process started if you're interested. So you would just reach out to Hannah and I, and we're happy to, of course, field any other questions or engage any other staff from your cities that might be interested to know more about the program. And then from there, we kind of rely on you all. So, some cities will have obviously their RFP that they need to do. Some folks want to do an MOU with us. We can do a more informal agreement if that is an issue, or you don't want to go through the MOU process. Some areas we just have kind of an email agreement, pretty informal. So it really depends on you and what you all want. And we kind of go from there. And Hannah, I'll let you follow up on the timeline and things like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so as Hannah said, it's kind of designed to be as informal or formal as a community requires. So from our end, because we don't have any sort of monetary exchange, there's no barrier to us partnering more informally. I will say, if you are interested in the program and you do reach out to Hannah and I about next steps, typically the first next step is figuring out exactly what barriers to lending use of a local logo will be. Sometimes there's very little red tape, and sometimes there's a lot. So I would recommend reaching out to leadership or legal teams just to see kind of like what that process would look like. Typically, that's our biggest sort of not hindrance, but barrier to just actually kicking off a program. Once we have the logo approved, it's pretty quick from our end. Our installer management team will do site visits. So they'll go out to New Mexico and they would meet with installers and get qualified installers to initiate the auction process. So we'll kind of have all that going on in the background once we start working with a community that's interested and moving forward with kind of exploring lending us your logo. And then once we have the installers determined and we have logo approved, we'll drop a direct mailer. So in terms of timeline, I spoke to my team this morning, and if there is interest and relatively low barrier to entry as far as how long it will take to get logo approvals, there is potential to run a program in the fall of 2026. So essentially what that would look like is a direct mailer going out at some point in between September and probably late October. And then installs would start taking place on a rolling basis through probably next summer. We typically give about like a 4 to 6 month window for installers. Overall, our campaigns are fairly standardized. So we'll start in the spring. We'll send out a first batch of mailers across the board in sort of staggering auctions across the country where we're working. And then essentially we'll have a registration period from, let's say, like late March all the way through end of August. For communities where there's demand for it, sometimes we'll do a second direct mailer in the summer to just get kind of like another push of marketing and outreach done. And then installs will start taking place on a rolling basis throughout that registration period. But essentially we give folks like as much time as we possibly can to register for the program.
And so it does sound like it's kind of a 1-year window, though.
Yes, I think that I would say typically with completely new state programs, realistically, a lot of times it even with a community that is very excited to join, there are typically barriers to getting logo approvals. Obviously, we understand that it's like it's a whole thing to allow someone else to use your logo on their materials. So I would say like the quickest typically is a few months, but of course that's again like we can pull the process along as quickly as possible, but ultimately kind of waiting on that first step. Yeah, I think I saw Erica's hand, and then there was a second hand. Sorry, I can't see everyone's little bubble.
Hi, Hannah, I was just wondering, like when you were mentioning that you went to Energize New Mexico, I was wondering like if you've also presented this to the solar providers in the area and what kind of feedback you get from them. Like, is this a service that they feel would benefit their business?
We did not do any formal presentations while we were out there, just kind of more informal chit-chatting with people around the event. I will say, though, that my coworkers have already sort of done a lot of the groundwork as we've been kind of meeting with folks in New Mexico. And it seems like there's a good amount of options for installers, as solar is already kind of so established in the state. So they didn't anticipate any problems finding reputable local installers to be a part of the program.
Yeah, I'm not concerned that there's reputable installers because indeed there are a lot of installers. I just curious from their perspective if they feel that this service would add value for their business.
Yeah, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but yeah, our sort of pitch to an installer is that hey, we'll do your marketing for you and hopefully get you a batch of residents that are like serious about going solar.
And I can just jump in here and say that something that our team relayed to me recently, which I was really pleased to hear, because we do, right, you do get feedback and pushback from installers who say, okay, but this is part of my bottom line, of course. And that makes a lot of sense as well, right? But one of the stats that our team recently told me is that of all of our programs across the country, all of our installers have come back for a second or a third round. So the program, I think, has proved to them to be successful. I think there was one case where someone didn't, and it's because they went out of the residential solar space. So that was a good metric for I think me to see too, that like, okay, this is installers are coming back and want to continue to bid on the program.
And I think it's also just a big consumer protection thing. There's a lot of bad actors in the area. So being able to have the government logo vouch for your business, I think is an easy, greases the wheels, so to speak. But I had another question for Hannah Squared is, I know you've done multiple rounds. Did you say in Denver? Would you say that like of the different rounds, like which ones were the more successful? Like obviously like it's successful enough to keep doing different rounds, but I'm curious just in terms of the exposure of the program over time, like what could it look like for a municipality that kind of like continues to do this work with you?
Yeah, I can get us started, Hannah. And Hannah Dieck is the data girly, so she will have better statistics than I do. But our Denver program, for instance, so this year is our 6th round of the program. And each year the program has grown. Last year was the most successful year, I think, for a lot of our programs. But that is because of the rush with the tax credit ending, right? So the second half of 2025 was quite crazy for us and installers. And Hannah, I don't know if you have stats to back me up on that. I know our DC program is also highly successful, which Hannah works on and I don't.
Yes, what I was going to say is that barring the tax credit going away, so obviously we had a lot of folks doing mad dash to get in at the end of last year. So we had larger programs across the board. What we have seen this year is we've been hitting all of our sort of benchmarks that we kind of set for ourselves. So we haven't seen a huge drop off in terms of interest because a variety of factors, utility costs continuing to go up. You all know all these things. Typically, the first program that we run in an area tends to be the largest, but there's not a huge drop off. It's just like kind of consistently like a little bit less as time goes on. How we try to sort of combat this is that when we send out direct mailers, say it's like the second round of a direct mailer drop, or even like the next year, we're doing a completely new program in the same area. The same household is never receiving like the direct mailer multiple times in a row. So each time we target slightly different pockets and groups of households. So we're kind of spreading out the marketing efforts to sort of like not just be hitting the same people over and over again.
And it's also important. So in areas where we have kind of boots on the ground state programs for sun, we try to do events in the community as much as we can. I don't know what we will be able to offer. I think I mentioned this on our call yesterday. I don't know what we'll be able to offer in New Mexico yet, since we don't have like a state-based program there. That said, we do have some staff members who live in New Mexico, so we might be able to kind of pull them in, but I'm just unsure at this time what that would look like. But I think that the community engagement piece is also really important to us on the sun side as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I think.
So the direct mailer piece got me thinking about something that was really successful in one of the Solarize campaigns in North Carolina. And this was in a pretty small town, but they basically analyzed sort of in a broad way, rooftops in the community and targeted the mailers to basically homes where solar was a good fit. Do you all ever do something like that?
Yes, I don't know. I actually just talked to my project manager about specifically what our sort of data looks like. And Christian, you can go if you have any input on that. Oh no, okay. Um, so sorry, let me get the actual text from this. So basically, rather than mailing every owner-occupied single-family home in a county or city, we work with a data analytics partner to identify households that are most likely to engage with us. So we use home ownership tenure, home value, and other household characteristics. And also it's based on patterns that we've seen from homeowners in other programs that we've already run who have ultimately participated in our programs to help feed into future programs. I don't know about like any sort of actual like solar analysis of like legitimately like looking at rooftops, but we do we don't do anything based on prior participation in energy programs or previous engagement. So it's not designed to favor residents who are already kind of like familiar with these opportunities to keep it as equitable as possible. But we do target, as this is like I think someone mentioned that this is definitely the most expensive part of running a program like this. So we put a lot of work into figuring out like how we can make the most impact with the mailers.
Awesome.
I'll definitely
Yeah,
bring that to the team. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and now that we're talking about it, I wonder if maybe a factor is the fact that North Carolina has a lot of vegetative matter that will often create a lot of shading over roofs, and perhaps that is less of an issue in this particular region.
Yes, that's entirely possible. Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
I was wondering if you have any thoughts on, so for example, on this call, we've got the city of Santa Fe and Santa Fe County. Have you done anything in other states where there's like a government partnership between cities and counties, as well as wondering if there's any kind of economies of scale for just local governments partnering, for example, city of Santa Fe and city of Albuquerque, where you run through one vendor selection process for like both markets, something like that.
Yes, definitely. Hannah, I see you come off.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of kick off with our Denver program. Sorry to keep referring to it. This program is the program that I worked on before I took this position, so that's what I'm most familiar with. So our Denver program, we have the city and county of Denver. We have the city and county of Boulder on board, which are two separate entities as well. And then several other local municipalities around the Boulder, Denver metro, and that includes county governments and local city governments. And I would say it's been really successful in that to see like all of us working together. We've got the timeline to where kind of everybody runs on the same campaign cycle. And I think that's really helpful for cross-promoting events and the program as well. Hannah, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I will just say that I think we definitely always look to begin programs that have multiple municipalities that are interested. So it always benefits the program. And I think that the communities themselves to have multiple entities, county, city, participating helps build trust with residents. If they see not only is my city participating, but my neighboring city and my county is participating, that all helps to build trust and lend legitimacy to the program. And also just like brand recognition, like, oh, I've heard of that Switch Together program. My neighbor did that. As we know, like I think the number one reason why people go solar is just that they see their neighbor has solar. So we definitely encourage that. And we also, when we're seeking out installers, make sure that we're saying, like communicating with them, you know, we have city of Albuquerque and city of Santa Fe both want to participate. Like we want to find installers that can cover this whole area and ensuring that we have capacity for everyone. But yeah, we do that in a number of our programs. We have the Maryland, Virginia, DC program, which is the one that I work on most regularly. We have we have 3 installers to make sure that we can kind of cover like counties all over all 3 of those states.
And just to clarify, so it's one reverse auction that is run that identifies a installer or group of installers for the city and the county.
Yes. So essentially our installer management team works to figure out exactly how much capacity we'll need for a program. And then that will indicate whether we need I think our biggest program has 3 installers. So anywhere between 1 to 3, depending on how much capacity they would need, they'll essentially reward those campaigns to those installers.
And then it's broken up by, sorry, Christian, it's broken up by geography as well. So like our campaign here in Denver, we have 3 installers, and each installer is assigned a region, and kind of the way the mailers are sent out and the way the advertising goes, the idea is that those would roughly be equivalent to what our installers have said their capacity is. If one installer can do twice the volume, or whatever the case may be. But the idea is we want them to realize, for example, when we have an event or something, like they're not competing for business as well. We're all kind of partners in this.
And if the cycle runs, if it's multiple cycles, do you then do another reverse auction so that it's not like just one installer that is the installer for like 3 years? Other installers see, oh wow, this is successful, I can offer a cheaper, we can offer a cheaper price than the current installer, I'd like to participate in the program, something like that.
Yes, that a big tenet of the program is that we're installer neutral. So we always have an auction at the beginning of every new program cycle. And to ensure that the same installer is not winning each auction. It does end up happening that the same, as Hannah said, to the program's credit, installers typically will come back and participate in the auction again. And there have been a few instances where, the previous installer does not win the work in the current program, but we always invite them to continue to come back and participate in the auction. We've had people lose auctions and come back for the next cycle because the work has been rewarding enough for them to make it worth it. But yeah, it's a blind auction, so it's designed to have no bias to any specific entity or company.
And I will say we're always happy and interested to talk to other local installers. So we try to do our installer management team, I think, does a really good job of trying to speak with qualified installers in the area. But anytime someone has a recommendation of someone to speak with, or someone reaches out to us, and I think with each program cycle, they're also doing their due diligence to make sure that we're trying to capture as much interest from local installers as we can.
Yep. Ken, go ahead.
At 17%, New Mexico is the second highest rate of people living in manufactured homes. Have you done any work with mobile home parks? Or if you haven't, would you be willing to do that?
I don't think offhand that we have done any targeted work for mobile homes, but I don't see why that would be a problem. So I think we're certainly open to it. And I think, and I know this, I said this to the Albuquerque folks yesterday, but with each state, there's nuances to how communities are shaped, what impacts residents want to go solar or barriers to going solar. So we try to shape the program to fit the community and not the other way around. So while we have our methods, we have sort of our model. If there's things like, we have lots of mobile homes in New Mexico, that is something that we want to talk about, like how can we shape the program to better fit that?
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure. Any other questions? And in the meantime, I did just want to say I will send out the slides that we went over today to everyone on the call list, as well as our installer requirement fact sheet, so y'all can have more specifics on that. Please reach out to Hannah or I if you have any questions that pop up afterwards. If you'd like to hold calls with additional staff within your offices to kind of talk about like what the program would look like more specifically in your community. And it was really nice to talk to you all.
Great. Thank you